the great thing about this course is it lets you experience programming in a really hands-on way. You get a program in something that not only affects what you see on the screen, but you can affect real-world objects like the temperature control lab. So this is a little overview of the project that we're going to be working towards building at the very end. At the very end, you'll get to use all the skills you developed and build this egg incubator. And you might have seen an egg incubator before, but for this project, we're going to pretend that you work for an organization where you often have to help eggs that have been lost from their nest or don't have any nest in which to grow to incubate to maturity. And so one of the most important things that you need to do is make sure the eggs stay at the right temperature. Because if they fall below the right temperature, they won't hatch, and if they go too high, they won't hatch. And it would be really tedious to do this every single day, to go check the temperature and then adjust it and check it and adjust it hour after hour. So it makes a lot more sense to have a computer do that for you automatically. And that's exactly what we're going to do here with the Temperature Control Lab. So the very first thing we need to do to get started programming for the Temperature Control Lab is download a few libraries for Java that will let you control it. So a library in Java is sort of like a little bit of code that someone else has written and they've published out there, and then you can take that and sort of borrow it and copy it into your program and use some of the code that they've written. So I'm going to show you how to implement, or how to download and implement these two libraries that you're going to need into Eclipse. They're both right here if you go to the GitHub page. And once again, all the lessons and all the resources you need are linked in the video below on the GitHub page. So first, you're going to scroll down here to where it says Get Started with JTC Library. And you'll see these two jar file downloads. You're going to want to download both of them. So I'm going to download them, and don't keep them in your downloads folder. You're going to want to put them in a folder where you have access to them, because every time your code runs, it's going to be looking at these files to use these external libraries. So I'm going to download the JTCLab library and save that to a folder. And I'm going to download this JSerial Communications library and save that to a folder. Now this first library here is intended to control the actual temperature control lab. It's what sends the commands over USB to the little piece of hardware you have. And this second one is used by the first one in order to send commands over the USB. So once you have those two files downloaded, you're going to go to Eclipse. I'm going to bring in my Eclipse here. And you're going to start a new project. So you can right click over here in your Package Explorer and go to New Java Project. And I'm going to name mine Example Project. And click Finish. Right here, just change the first letter of the module name to a lowercase letter and click Create. And now you see we have our new project right here. Now we need to get these two files that we just downloaded, the jar files for JSerial Communications and JTCLab, into this project. And you have to do this for every new project that you create that uses these libraries. So to do that, come over here and right click on your project name, and then come down here to Build Path and Configure Build Path, and click on that. And it'll open up this window, and you'll see two things. You're going to want to click on Module Path, and then click this button over here that says Add External Jars. And browse to the library where you saved those two jar files. In this case, it's this examples folder. And select both of them and click Open. And you'll see both of these external jar files have been added to this little folder called Module Path. Now you can click Apply and Close. And then in your main project, you'll be able to use those two libraries and all their functions. So I don't have a main class here yet, but I'm going to make one just so you can see how to implement and how to use those two external libraries. Right click here on the source folder and then go to New Package and name your package. Click Finish, and then right click on the package you just made and go to New Java Class and name your class. I'm going to name mine Main Class. Make sure to check the main method checkbox right here and click Finish. And now inside your main method, to use the two libraries we just imported, you need to import them. So up here, right after your package, you're going to write import, and then you're going to write right here, oops, wrong button. If I click reference libraries, I can see the two libraries I just imported. Now, since this one, the first one, is only used by JTCLab, we only have to import JTCLab in our main method. So I'm going to click here, and then you can see this package right here. You can tell it's a package because of this little box icon. And if I click on that, I can see all of the classes underneath it that I can use. So to import it, we need to import this package name. So right after import on my main class, I'm going to write edu.jtclab. And then we also need to tell it which classes in the package to import. In this case, I just want to import all of them. And so I can use what's called the Java wildcard, which is the little asterisk symbol. And that will tell it to import all the classes in this package. And in this case, it's not a lot of classes, so it doesn't matter that much. Sometimes if you're using a library that has dozens or hundreds of classes, it is important that you tell it which ones so that you don't try to import a ton of extra stuff each time. And then finish that off with a semicolon right there. Now you'll see this little red squiggly line, and to fix that you can just hover over it and click Fix Project Setup and select the first suggestion and click OK, and it'll fix the project setup and the red squiggly will go away. So now we have the library imported into our Eclipse project. Next, we need to run some test code and make sure that it worked. So here, if you go back to the GitHub page for the very first lesson, you'll see here at the bottom some example code you can run. And you can copy it directly from here. I'm going to type it so that I can explain a little bit what's happening as I go through. So you can see in the example code, we've already imported JTCLab just like we did in our project. And then these lines are here just to test it. What the lines should do is connect to the lab and then turn on the LED and then wait 5 seconds and turn it off. So I'm going to walk you through how to do each of these things. To connect to the lab, the very first thing we have to do is create a new JTCLab object. So we do this with this line right here. We write JTCLab and then we name it. I'm going to name it my lab, but you can name it whatever you want. And then equals new JTCLab and then parentheses and semicolon. Now every time we send a command to the temperature control lab, the real life one, we're going to be using this object to send those commands. And so next, you can see we just wrote this program or this line of code right here. Next we want to send the command to turn on the LED. And that's pretty simple. We can just write my lab, or if you named your object something different, write the name of your object, and then dot LED to parentheses semicolon. And that will turn on the LED to full power. And then we're going to wait 5 seconds. Now this line might look a little bit confusing at first, but up here it explains it a little bit more. In Java, if you're ever going to run a piece of code that you're not sure if it's going to run, you can put it in this little try catch block. And this basically tells Java, try to do the code in here. So in this case, we want to try to wait. This little thread.sleep means wait this many milliseconds. So this will try to wait 5 seconds. But if for some reason there's a problem on the computer and it just can't, then the catch is sort of like a catch-all. It will catch this exception or this error that it throws. And then in these blocks, you could have it do something with that. If you wanted to, you could have it printed out so that the user could read it. In this case, I don't think it's going to fail very much. So I'm just going to write try to wait 5 seconds. And if that doesn't work, catch the exception, but it doesn't need to do anything. So let's type that into Eclipse here. Try thread.sleep. And remember it's in milliseconds, so 5,000 milliseconds is 5 seconds. And then semicolon. And if that doesn't work, catch. Oh, and I forgot this should be a squiggly bracket right here. If that doesn't work, catch. Let's see what that error was. Interrupted exception E. and 2 more squiggly brackets. And that long line of code will make the computer wait 5 seconds. And then last of all, we need to turn the LED off. So in this example, we do that with this little command, mylab.close. And that will turn the LED off, and it'll also power down the heaters and disconnect from the lab. So after every program where you control the temperature control lab, it's important to use this close command. And that's the whole program. So let's try running that. Now once again, to run a program, go up here and click the little green play button. And over here you can see in the console that it connected successfully. And if you look at your temperature control lab, you should see this little LED right here light up for 5 seconds. And I have mine sitting next to my computer here, and I can confirm that it did light up. And after it's finished lighting up, it will disconnect and print TCLab disconnected successfully. So that's the basics of how to use the JTCLab library in your project. And every time you write a program to control the JTCLab, you'll need to follow those basic steps of importing the JTCLab library, which remember we did over here by right-clicking on our project and clicking build path and configure build path. And then from that point on, you can use any of the methods to control your JTCLab, just like we did to control your temperature control lab rather, just like we did here to control it, to control and turn on the LED. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time when we jump into some programming.